There are three certainties in life: death, taxes, and Lewis Hamilton winning the Formula One World Championship. The British legend was crowned a six-time Formula One champion this weekend in Austin in what was a thrilling race, and we'll be diving into all the details during this show. Welcome to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. The F1 Grid Talk podcast is powered by F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews, opinions, and all things F1. Hosting today will be me, George Howson. Joining me today are sports journalist Mikhail Kataya.
Hey.
Engineering student Wayne Medford.
Hello.
And motorsport fanatic Rhys Evans.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us on the show today, lads. Now, we'll start with the man who actually won the race, Valtteri Bottas. And just like Japan, Mikhail, it was a faultless drive by a compatriot.
Yeah, I mean, he did very well. I feel like since he had a chassis change, I think, in Suzuka, he's really come back to his form that he had in the beginning of the season. And I was actually looking, it's interesting. So, because Kimi won last year and Valtteri this year, Koda is actually the first track to be dominated twice in a row by Finnish people since 2004 and 5 with Raikkonen winning in Belgium.
Wow, that's a stat.
So we're back in form.
Sumi! Oh, man. No, that's an interesting one, that definitely. And it's looking positive for Bottas as well, because even though Hamilton won the championship this year, and he won the championship back in 2015, if you remember, Rosberg won the last few races of 2015. He went into 2016 with incredible form. You wouldn't rule that out, would you, Wayne? I mean, Bottas is looking untouchable at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis Hamilton, once he's got the championship, at least in the last few years, his form has seemed to drop off considerably. I know he's trying to work on that, but Bottas has looked increasingly consistent this year and more able to fight at the top with regards to poles and also race wins. So it'd be interesting to see if he carries that into next year, because the cars aren't going to change too much, so it's not like a case of adapting to the cars. And it'd be interesting to see how well he does compared to see if he can put up a big title fight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not the worst problem to have, is it? Dropping off in form after you've won the World Championship with several races to go. Yeah, I think he's only won one race, Hamilton, after he's clinched the championship. So it'll be interesting to see how he keeps going into Brazil and Abu Dhabi, because it definitely wasn't a bad race for Hamilton. He was off form in qualifying, but he definitely turned it on in the race, Rhys.
Yeah, he just tried to make that one stop work with him, and it just didn't come together, did it? I mean, when I saw Bottas stop, I thought that was the wrong call to make, but it proved to be the right decision. And it's just that Hamilton just seems to be able to keep his tyres in the right shape more than Vettel and Bottas and stuff. So yeah, a great drive by Hamilton again. I mean, that's why he gets paid the big bucks, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And he always delivers. I mean, he's won 5 out of the last 6 World Championships. Mercedes winning 6 in a row in the constructors. Only the second man in history to win 6 or more titles. Only Michael Schumacher is ahead of him in that regard. And if Hamilton continues his form, will match Michael Schumacher in that regard next year, if not pass his win totals as well, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? I mean, I think Bottas sometimes get a bit of a raw deal because he's teammates to Hamilton. Hamilton is his teammate, so as a benchmark, he's not going to be able to beat that, I don't think. But put him in any other team, and I think he would be dominating.
Yeah, that's the thing about Hamilton. The cream always rises to the top, and it's just incredible what he's done. I mean, it's easy to forget, Mikhail, but the first half of this season, Hamilton was absolutely untouchable. The amount of wins that him and Mercedes got before the summer break was just unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of after summer break, it's not that Hamilton or Bottas fell down in form, it's the entire Mercedes team, or rather just Ferrari and Red Bull caught up in certain aspects. And I think before Valtteri's pole in Texas, it was 5 or 6 races without the Mercedes on pole, something like that. So yeah, the first half of the season is really what determined the championship. on both constructor and the drivers, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mercedes have just carried it through, haven't they? And even though they haven't had the fastest car, there's no doubt about that. Ferrari have had the fastest car. They've got the results. I mean, it's another 1-2 finish for Mercedes away around a track that arguably they weren't really the fastest round again.
Yeah, they didn't have like the peak performance. I think I think the Ferraris, I think they got just a bad lap. And to be honest, the sort of last session of qualifying, it just didn't improve in the way that they expected for their last runs. And I think if it had, then we would have seen a Ferraris on pole, as we've seen. But the Ferraris don't have the race pace, especially in the race today. And they fell back through the field compared to the Mercedes and the Red Bull.
Yeah, it felt bad. I mean, we'll touch on Ferrari, obviously. People were surprised how bad they were this race. Yeah, Mercedes 1-2, Bottas ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Third place, though, Max Verstappen, and another drive by, another impressive drive to say the least. I mean, he was right on Hamilton at the end, Reece, but couldn't quite make the two-stop work like Bottas did.
No, I think he was really unfortunate with that late yellow flag. The one corner he could have put a move on him on, and I think Magnussen came off. Yeah, I think as well. I think he could have taken pole if that last run in Q3 had gone a different way, because I don't think anybody really bettered their time then. Yeah, and I think I don't know if he had the pace to win, but he was very close this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Bottas had him in arm's length, to be honest. I mean, he was very impressive by Bottas for pole position as well. I didn't expect that at all, with how, like you said, Michael, it's been 4 or 5 races since Mercedes had been on pole, and it was Bottas of all people. You expect it to be Hamilton, but there you go. But yeah, so Verstappen 5 seconds off the lead in third, but Charles Leclerc, Ferrari 52 seconds to lead. It's like Australia, the first race of the season, where both Ferraris finished a minute off the Mercedes. I mean, can you explain it, Mikhail? What happened to Ferrari this weekend? They were decent in qualifying, but in the race they were miles off.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because it's like, obviously there was a lot of talk about the rules around how you use gas and everything, that, like, I think Red Bull made some moves with the FIA on that, and there's talks of whether or not that affected Ferrari's race pace, but still, like, they were really close of having a pole position, possibly even locking the front row. So it's weird. Obviously, again, a very bad Sunday for Ferrari. I think we're getting used to it now, and yeah, we'll see if Red Bull keeps improving or performing at the level they are right now. I don't think we'll see another red car in the podium probably in the rest of the season.
Ooh, that's a bold call, that. I mean, what do you think about that, Wayne? I mean, Ferrari, they have the pace on one lap. They've not quite converted it into race pace, but do you think this weekend was a bit of a one-off for them, or is it just a true reflection of what the car's actual race pace is?
I don't think that the race pace of the car has been anywhere near what the Red Bull and Mercedes can do. If you were to compare sort of your lap time as like 100% on a qualifying lap, like that's your peak lap time, I think the gap between a Ferrari race lap and a Ferrari qualifying lap is significantly wider than between the Red Bull and Mercedes race laps to qualifying laps, if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird way to put it, but and I don't see them coming back really in the last 2 races of the season. I don't think Sao Paulo suits their car at all, and yeah, they might be all right in Yas Marina, but it's too little, too late really for them.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, it's obviously too late for them in terms of the championship. That's been gone for a while now, but yeah. There you go. I mean, I do agree with you saying that. I think around some tracks, I mean, obviously, I think they had 3 wins in a row. They had Spa, they had Monza, they had Singapore, but I think those potentially were due to the strength of the engine and also how difficult it is to overtake around Monza and Singapore too. It is interesting in that sense. I mean, where do you stand on it, Reece? Do you think that Ferrari kind of been bailed out by their engine and the shortcomings of the actual car, the chassis, like the aerodynamics, have really been shown up at COTA?
Yeah, I mean, the engine saved them a lot, because if they hadn't had that, they would have been another 3 or 4 tenths off the pace. And then they seemed to sort of get their act together in Singapore. I think they had a new update there, and this was just a weird. I don't fully understand why they were off the pace. Maybe it was a track temperature thing, or it was just really strange. I think they might struggle a little bit in Brazil, but Abu Dhabi, slightly cooler temperatures and those long straights, I think they'll be back up there. And it's just been a really tricky season for them. I think they're on their way back up with Mattia Binotto now, but the strategy department in Ferrari is worrying, because if they manage to get a decent car straight out the gate next year, they've got to be on the money when it comes to strategy, because they cost themselves so many points at the start of the year, and all the messing about with swapping drivers around, and there was never the feeling that they knew really what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it in the chat. Ross Brawn's been in the news obviously because the 2021 car has been revealed, and we'll touch on that obviously. But Ross Brawn's been in the news, and we said that if Ross Brawn was still at Ferrari, or if someone like Ross Brawn, a real figurehead, someone who can control the drivers and knows how to get the best out of the machine that they have, that they would have been far better, Mikhail. I mean, I personally think if they had Ross Brawn at the team in the role that he used to be, that they could have challenged for the championship all the way.
Yeah, that probably could have been possible. Like, it's not inconceivable to see that Ferrari might have taken like a few 1-2s in the last few Grand Prix and like made the championship at least a little bit tighter than it is right now. So, I mean, whether it's difficult obviously to pinpoint what it falls down to, but I mean, the strategy department, they have to improve for 2020, obviously, because otherwise we're just gonna, even with a better car, I don't see how they won't dominate, that's for sure.
Yeah, Mercedes is just the perfect team, and part of that team is the strategy department, and that was key because, obviously they had to do the 2-stop for Bottas. He had the track position, you get away with that. Hamilton did the 1-stop and he made it work and he finished second. So they took a car that wasn't the fastest and got the perfect result in the end. Yeah, let's go down the order. Let's go to Alexander Albon, 5th in the Red Bull, which you think, okay, pretty standard drive, normal position for him. But it was anything but an easy drive from Rowan. He had to do a lot of overtaking after that setback at the start.
Yeah, he really got squeezed at the start, and I don't think it's anyone's real fault there. It's just the way that the track is. It goes from sort of 8 cars wide down to two or 3 cars wide. So obviously that tends not to go. But yeah, I mean, he had to pit a fair amount, and he actually made him a 3-stop actually work.
Yeah, incredibly made the 3-stop work. And if it wasn't for that last pit stop, he could have potentially caught Charles Leclerc, who's really struggling that Ferrari during this race. 6th and best of the rest, Daniel Ricciardo of Renault. Great result for him and keeping the McLaren of Lando Norris at bay, Reese.
Yeah, the Renaults and the McLaren seem to be fighting pretty much the whole Grand Prix. He also did that. There was a really good move on Vettel early on in the race when Vettel was dropping back. I think I'd just like to give a shout out to Perez though as well. I think to start right from the back and to get a point was pretty good going. Hülkenberg as well. He started on the hard tyre, and then he stayed out for a really long time. And then just the lap before he was going to stop, he just seemed to drop positions. I don't know entirely what went on there, but yeah, Perez, really good drive, really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to those guys, obviously. But yeah, really impressive from Ricciardo to finish 6th. His brakes definitely not letting him down in that Renault. They still seem to be pretty good despite the changes they've had to make. Lando Norris 7th for McLaren. I think he came on the radio after being disappointed and stuff. But still a decent drive by him, obviously. And with Carlos Sainz's 8th place, that means that McLaren have officially won the best of the rest. They are the Formula 1.5 champions, Mikhail. What a year for McLaren. Who would have seen this coming?
Yeah, I mean, this was a phenomenal year for them, to be fair. And I feel like, I mean, obviously we can't say that they're back as in, 08. form, but it's still great to see that they're actually making a lot of progress. And now they have, I mean, not only do they have like something to build on for 2020 and 2021 with the new regulation, but they also have a driver pair that seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sainz and Norris. I mean, Norris has been unbelievable this year, as has Sainz. I mean, they're both incredible, and they're both so young as well, Owain. I mean, they've got a lot of room to grow, and the Mercedes engine in the car from 2021 as well.
Yeah, it seems to all be going their way, where they've got two drivers who actually like each other, you know, can get on, can work to develop the car, which has helped significantly with how their chassis performance has been going, because you've got two guys with a similar driving style and a similar want, you're not having to compromise the car for your lead driver, obviously. And it seems that Andreas Seidel, I think, has been a catalyst for reinvigorating the management of that team, and that's no surprise with how successful he was at Porsche. It's all coming up with them. They seem to be really starting to get back into their groove.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, would you say it'd be too much of a stretch to see them joining the Red Bulls and the Ferraris and Mercedes next year, Reece? They're definitely on an upward trend at the moment.
I'd be very surprised. I think they're holding out for 2021 now. You know, that reset, and where the gaps hopefully will be the cars will be a lot closer together. They're clearly happy with Sainz and Norris. You know, you see them walking about, and it's like they've been best friends for their whole life. You know, it's not really a concern, but I think this is Norris's first season, and he's definitely hasn't underperformed at all. But Sainz has really been impressive in that McLaren, and whether Norris will be able to up his game next year is the question for me, because he's clearly quick, but whether he'll be able to match Sainz week in, week out.
Yeah, that's a big question, obviously. To be honest, I don't think he has to match Sainz week in, week out. I mean, he will be 20 years old, or he is 20 years old now. You know, he's not going to be expected to beat Sainz. You know, all he has to just bring the car home consistently in the points, like he has been this year, to be fair. So I think he'll be just fine at that team. And as well, he's British, he's young, he's just perfect for McLaren.
Yeah.
But yeah, as well, Nico Hülkenberg, 9th place, solid drive by him. Despite really struggling towards the end of his first stint, I mean, absolutely no grip on those rear tyres. He was passing him left, right, and centre. You mentioned him before, Reece mentioned him before, but yeah, what a drive by Sergio Perez in the Racing Point. Started from the pit lane, finished in the points, thanks to a Kvyat's penalty, but still finishing the points in the Racing Point. A car that you wouldn't expect to do too well around Kota Mikhail.
Yeah, he did. He actually did quite well. I feel like for this Grand Prix, like seeing whether or not Perez would outperform Stroll was really the key, because I mean, Lance really got the upper hand by, you know, not having that massive penalty hanging over his head for the in the starting grid. So the fact that he was able to first of all even beat Stroll and then make it onto the points, it's really impressive, and still shows that, you know, maybe there is a sense to him making a 3-year contract with Racing Point.
Yeah, I mean, he does justify. I mean, he's been incredible in this second half of the season. Just looking at his points now, he's scored in all but one of the races since the summer break. So he's doing very well in that Racing Point indeed. 11th place, Kimi Räikkönen. Incredible start by Räikkönen, Owain, but it's just not quite enough for the points. That Alfa Romeo is just falling further and further back as the season goes on, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's the ability to develop it that some of the teams in front of them have. And, you know, as much as they're trying very, very hard, I think that's the true position of the car, really. It's sort of fifth or sixth best. And I do believe that, to be honest, Raikkonen's making the most out of it. He's probably dragging that car up. He's a world champion. That's what they tend to do. And I think Giovinazzi is probably dragging it down a little bit. So somewhere in between him and Giovinazzi is probably the true performance of the car.
Well, to be fair, Giovinazzi, he outqualified Raikkonen and he finished 14th. Which isn't great, to be fair, but you know, it's his first full season in F1. Like Norris, you don't expect him to match his teammate. But I know what you mean. At the same time, you kind of expect maybe a little bit more from Gio. I think he's pretty safe in that seat for next year. Daniel Kvyat finished 12th after his penalty. He had a collision with Sergio Perez. I didn't actually see this because I was feeding Rex during this part of the race, so I couldn't see. Reese, can you fill us in? What actually happened there, and did he deserve his penalty?
Can I pass this on to somebody else because I haven't actually seen it either?
Okay,
I saw a replay of that, but I think it's just so they were coming to the corner where Magnussen went, where you had the yellow flags because of Magnussen, and then I think in one of the following corners, Kvyat collided with Perez and pushed him out. It's one of the corners just before where Verstappen overtook Kimi a few years ago. So a couple corners before that, I think he just pushed Perez off. They they made contact. So yeah, that's why he got the penalty. Also, I wanted to add, I think Giovinazzi was actually confirmed for Alfa Romeo for next year today.
Oh, there you go. Breaking news on the Grid Talk podcast. So yeah, did you see the incident? Owain, do you think Kvyat deserved the penalty?
Yeah, I saw the incident. I looked it up quickly. Basically, he's gone into, I think it's turn 14. It's that. It's basically
awkward little left-right handers just after the straight, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah. Well, no, but there's the triple right sort of thing that it does.
Yeah, and then you have two lefts. Yeah.
Yeah, and two lefts before that, and it's sort of very, very wide on entry, but also very sort of narrow on exit. And if you sort of leave the door open like Perez seemed to do, he's gone the wider line to try and get a good exit for the next few corners. And Kvyat's just put it up the inside. Unfortunately, he's misjudged it a bit, gone in a bit too hot, and his front tyres hit the end plate of Perez's wing. And knocked all that off. So I think if you just come in a little bit less, or manage to get a bit further alongside, or if the angle's a tiny bit different, if he rotated the car more, he'd have probably got away with it. But unfortunately, he's just managed to hit too much of Perez's car, and I think that's why he's got the penalty. I think it's a little bit of a harsh penalty, but it's got to be given.
Yeah, and possibly a decision in Mexico towards the end of the race. The torpedo was in it 2 races in a row now. Took someone out during the race. He's back on form.
Was it all after the yellow flag? Or there was no like...
It took place after the corner that Magnussen was out.
Yeah, so Perez probably slowing up a little bit and leaving himself a little bit open. Kvyat taking his opportunity. Didn't quite work out. It happens. That's racing. It's been a good use for the torpedo, to be fair, though. I've been a bit harsh on him. He'll be at Toro Rosso again next year. But yeah, let's round out the other people who were in the race. Lance Stroll, 13th, nondescript drive. Giovinazzi, 14th, nondescript drive. Sorry, it's just this. Rowan Grosjean Haas having predictably a awful home race in the USA. 15th for him. Magnussen, we've mentioned him before. He spun out. I don't know if it was brake failure or whatever. It looked like a brake failure to me. A big cloud of dust as he spun out. Pierre Gasly, he was having another good race for Toro Rosso. He's been excellent since being demoted. I think he was looking about 9th place, and he had a suspension failure. As did Sebastian Vettel after just 6 laps in the race. Shocking, really. I don't know. I don't actually know what caused it, but I have a theory about this, and I'll pose it to you guys. I think it could actually be, at least in Gasly's case, something to do with the runoff, the curbs in Kota.
Yeah.
A few people were complaining about that. Reese, where do you stand on this? Do you think the runoffs were too harsh in Kota?
Yeah, I think it's rather than the apex itself. I agree with you. I think it's the runoff curve just before you start heading downhill. With Vettel, yeah. I think that they did mention that it's up for resurfacing and stuff. So it was strange that only a few cars seem to have problems with it, though.
Yeah, I mean, other other drivers take different lines, I suppose, and stuff like that. I mean, Vettel, remember in Spa 2015, I want to say, he was really aggressively using the curbs there and got a puncture because of it. He does like to push the limits, but it seemed a bit too soon for that. It was almost off the line that he had a problem, and then eventually his suspension broke. I mean, where do you? Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry. I mean, it was only like lap 8, I think. It was
Yeah,
really early on in the race, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was really slow. I mean, he was passed by Ricciardo really early on too, which you really wouldn't expect to happen. But where do you stand on this, Mikhail? I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are using parts of the track that aren't actually parts of the track. You know what I mean? They're off track. Do you think it's right that they're being punished for this? Or do you think it's a bit too harsh on the cars?
I mean, I kind of fall because there was a big conversation about the sausage curb in Austria a few years back, the one that kept breaking everyone's car pretty much.
And this year,
to the extent that it started getting dangerous. But at the same time, like I think I was listening to Mika Salo at the time, and what he basically said is like if you look at IndyCar, you have that like knee-high wall everywhere. So it's like the track limits are there because of that. And in my opinion, like it doesn't really matter whether there is a wall or not. You're not supposed to go outside of them. I do see the point that if you have a runoff area, it gives more like ways for drivers to take that. So we might see like different driving lines, so the different laps for qualifying, for example. But I mean, for me, I really personally, I don't care if it breaks the car because you're supposed to stay between the white lines.
Yeah, I can see that viewpoint. What do you think, Owen? Do you think if they're going out there and they're damaging the cars, it's fair enough? That's the risk they take by going off the track? Because back in the day, that would have just been grass.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing saying that you have to go out there. You know, if you want to stay in the race, then obviously you can not put your car through unnecessary force and stuff, and so you don't need to use the curbs. You don't need to be cutting. I think I saw a lot of cutting of turn 8. They managed to just skirt around on the inside of turn 8 and managed to miss the sausage curb that they had on the inside there and gain extra speed. And he's gone on to the exit of turn 9, which is where it broke. And I'm thinking, to be honest, that it was sort of he's hit a sausage curb a bit harder than he normally would, and it is very bumpy, and the resonance of the bumps, has probably weakened the carbon fiber around that area, and that's what's broken it. But there's nothing saying you need to go out there. So if you're going to go out there, then you understand the risks that you might incur damage from that.
Yeah, play with fire, you get burned sometimes. That's the way it is. But yeah, we mentioned Vettel. Obviously, he went out of the race really soon after the start. But I don't know if you guys saw as well, but massive respect to Vettel as well after the race. He came up and congratulated Hamilton on his 6th world title. Real echoes of Schumacher and Hakkinen from the 90s that I thought was a beautiful image, and really respect between two great champions there. I think that's what we love to see. That's what we really like to see. Battles are all fun and everything, but the respect between these men is fantastic to see sometimes. And props to him. Props to Vettel for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the Williamses to mention. I haven't given mention to them. George Russell finished. He was 17th, 2 laps down. Nothing you can say over that. He was battling with the Hasses for part of it. That's all he can really do at the end of the day. And Robert Kubica, he didn't finish. He was out after 31 laps with an oil leak, or he just gave up. Who can blame him? Anyway, so there's been some absolutely humongous news outside of the racing itself for the future of F1. I'm sure everybody here has seen it. Obviously, we've been sharing it around in the group. Most F1 fans have seen it as well. The 2021 concept car. And I, for one, think it looks absolutely awesome. I really do. I think it looks like an F1 car should look like. It looks aggressive. It looks like a 10-year-old would draw. It looks just cool. What do you think, Reese? I mean, obviously, it's not just about the looks. It's also about how it performs. And one of the biggest things behind this is to reduce that dirty air, which they have promised will go down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I've been burnt too much by hype before to get really excited and then have it not turn out to be amazing. But it's a holistic approach to the whole thing. They've done financial, sporting regs. They've done the actual aero, which I think is what everybody's wanted for a long time. Everybody mentions ground effect. the cars look brilliant. And I think hopefully it will lead to a formula where driver talent is even more important than it is now, because it's going to make such a difference. Hopefully, if the gaps between teams are 2 to 4 tenths, say, you want to be able to put the best driver in. You don't really want a Stroll or somebody like, or even a Giovinazzi, I think, in a car, because you're just not going to get the performance out of it. Hopefully there won't be anywhere to hide. So I'm optimistic about it, and I think Ross Brawn appears to have done a really good job with it, along with Chase Carey and everybody at F1.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think for me the big difference is that you look at the people behind this decision. Ross Brawn. If anybody knows how to make an F1 car fast or slow or easy to follow or hard to follow, it's him, isn't it, Mikhail? He is the man for this job.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is what we all started hoping for and waiting for when he kind of took over the entire series in a way, or the planning the future of F1 pretty much. So yeah, I mean, what to say, the cars look brilliant. The fact that they are designed to diminish the dirty air, it's great. And I mean, Kimi said it perfectly. It doesn't matter if they're 10 seconds slower. If the racing is better, it's much more fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I see where it's coming from with that, but also F1 is of course about speed, so it's a hard balance to find. But I don't doubt these cars won't be slow. They'll be bloody quick, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think they will be as fast as what we have now. But then again, if there's better racing, that's what really matters. That's what we all want to see. But yeah, I mean, Reese mentioned about the budget cap that's finally put in place after about 20 years of talking about doing one. That they finally managed to do it, Owain. And what do you make of it? I think it's interesting. I think I don't know in terms of the figures and stuff, but I think it's good that they've finally got something there.
Yeah, I'm glad that we've actually got it, and I'm glad that they've also excluded certain things like driver salary. So you're not being penalised because you want to put a top-level driver in who requires 100 million a year to stay at your team. So I'm glad that they've excluded certain things so that we still keep the sort of value of the top drivers. But also I'm glad that they've actually sort of reined in what the big teams can do with their budget. So I think we're going down from 400 wind tunnel runs per year, and we're going down to 320. So that's less than one a day. So I think teams are actually going to have to choose. We're not going to be spending sort of back in the Ferrari days where you had wind tunnels running all night, and Michael Schumacher pounding around Fiorano developing the car. We've gone away from that, thankfully, and I think sort of 175 million is actually a sensible figure that we're seeing there.
Yeah, I mean, 175 million is a lot to everybody, but in terms of F1, it's a lot less than what a lot of these teams are spending. And I mean, it definitely should. I think, in theory, it should definitely close things up.
My only concern with the budget cap is that grey area between works team and junior team. How they're going to police that between sort of Sauber and Ferrari, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari. Even Haas as well. How is there restrictions on information that's shared? How does that work?
Yeah, that is definitely a grey area, isn't it? And that, because at the end of the day, they are ultimately owned by the same, especially Red Bull and Toro Rosso. They're the obvious one. They're literally owned by the same people. It's going to be interesting, but I guess overall as a unit they cannot spend more than 2 times 175 million, so 350 million. I guess in that sense it should be fine, because I mean, in theory they could put 300 million into Red Bull and 50 million into Toro Rosso, but I don't think they do that. I think that would make them look bad, and it also wouldn't make them pay off, because they just have a car at the back effectively with Toro Rosso, and it might not even work out with Red Bull. There's no guarantees that would work.
I think you have to be incredibly clever. Sorry, I think you're going to have to be incredibly clever to find loopholes in those financial regulations. And should you do that, Ross Brawn has already indicated that could be a championship ending. We could be going from minor fines up to full disqualification from the championship, which would leave you with zero prize money. So I think they're trying to give those regulations teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely punishment there. But as we always see, these F1 teams will push the boat out. They will cheat in some pretty bad ways if given the chance, but who knows?
Yeah.
Well, that's some pretty clever aerodynamicists, but there's about to be some even cleverer accountants coming into Formula One now.
Yeah, they'll already be there probably. But yeah, I do see what you mean. One of the more interesting things, though, I think, is obviously there's some big changes, but the fact that DRS is staying in the sport, and that's a controversial one because obviously these cars are meant to be easy to follow. So, is that an indication they don't have ultimate faith that this will mean that they can pass now, Mikhail, or is it just it's already there? Why change it, sort of thing?
I mean, a few years ago they introduced that to the F2 as well, and I just feel like it's now become more of a part of the sport. I do get the point on like why wouldn't they take it away if we now have cars that you can overtake in any corner after any length of a straight. But at the same time, I mean, we've already been conditioned to wait for the long straights, and then someone like Daniel Ricciardo or Verstappen or Fiat just making a lunge for it with the DRS from almost 1 second away. So, I mean, I'm happy they're keeping it in a sense that, if things were to fall flat on their face, at least you have something at the back, and we're not going to just have cars driving in a line.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a lot to cover about the 2021 regulations. We'll be getting into that in some sort of post-season review, I'm sure. But let us know what you think about the regulations, the new changes. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know wherever you're watching this, listen to this. But yeah, it's positive for sure. But we've seen this before. Obviously, I remember before this season, the new front wings were meant to make it overtaking a lot easier. They haven't really. A little bit, not enough. Hopefully this will be enough though. But yeah, so we haven't really I don't even know who won driver of the day, to be honest with you, for this race. But
Albon.
It was Albon. Okay, that's a good choice. I'm going to give my driver of the day, though, to Sergio Perez, and I think Reese will probably agree with me on this one.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that.
Backing me up on the right side of the screen.
Yeah.
Mikhail, who is your driver of the day for USA?
I mean, I'll have to go with Bottas, just because bias, huge bias, such patriotic. No, I mean, he's back on form, and I really hope that he's not only able to carry it to Brazil and to Abu Dhabi, but also to next year. If he manages to get this form to the beginning of next year, further than just Australia, I think it might be a more interesting championship if it was to come down to just the two Mercedes drivers.
Yeah, I mean, we thought we would have had that this year after the first few races with 2 wins each after Baku, but it didn't work out like that in the end. The key for Bottas is keeping the consistency for a whole year. On his day, he's unbeatable. He was unbeatable here. He was unbeatable in Japan. He has been around some of the races this season too, but it's just the consistency, and that's what Hamilton has. He will deliver 10 times out of 10 almost. Yeah. Bottas, maybe 7, and that's the difference. That's the difference between a great driver and a great champion.
I just think he needs to turn the aggression up a little bit as well. When he's, I mean, you saw it in Monza when he was chasing Leclerc down. You don't have the
killer instinct.
I think he's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah, and that makes a difference. We've seen it a few times. I remember, was it Bahrain last year when he was chasing down Vettel in the last lap? He could have done a lunge, just didn't do it. He hung back and he lost the race because he finished second instead of first. That's the thing that's missing, and it's kind of something that you either have or you don't. I think Bottas is more reserved in that regard, and it does help him out sometimes. That when he has a bit of a pace, arguably a pace deficit to Hamilton, I don't think people will argue that he has to use his aggression,
especially with his seat constantly under threat. You know,
Yeah.
we're always talking about, is he going to retain his seat? And there was all that stuff with Ocon earlier in the season. But I'm glad he's kept his seat, and now he can move into 2020, and hopefully we'll have Bottas 3.0 or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the thing that I think will be more under threat next year, because obviously Ocon will be an F1 for Renault, so direct comparison almost, the same race, the same conditions, different cars. So yeah, definitely interesting to see. Owen, who was your driver of the day for USA?
I mean, more realistically, it should be someone like Albon or Perez, but I'm going to go with Hamilton because I can.
Bias. Oh man.
Well,
No. Driver of the year, Lewis Hamilton. I think people agree with that.
Yeah, we definitely have to say that. I just want to touch on the strategy that he was playing. I was slightly disappointed to see him go only one lap after he was called in. I was hoping he'd actually go a decent amount longer on those tyres if he felt he could do that, because I think that could have actually swung the strategies just very slightly in his favour. I might be wrong. You know, he may have felt the side actually, to be honest, to get over that one lap had got worse to the point where he wouldn't be able to challenge so well on them. But I was hoping to see him go a bit further, and I think that if that had worked, he'd have been able to make the difference.
I respectfully disagree. I don't think so. Bottas was I see what you're saying, but I don't think it would have worked out. Bottas was miles faster. I thought, if anything, he should have gone in when he was asked to, because he was still ahead at that point, and that would have saved him time. Bottas just breezed past on the back straight. I mean, new tyres were something like 2.5 seconds faster a lap round there.
You did, but you've got the extra range that you get from newer tyres. So he could push through them a bit better. That's just my thoughts on it. I don't know. I haven't driven those tyres.
No,
I think.
Go on.
Sorry, you go. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, yeah, it is fresher lap tyres for a lap, but it's fresher hard tyres for one lap. It's doing 24 laps on them instead of 25. I don't think in the grand scheme of things it would have made much difference. I mean, Bottas won by 4 seconds. He pulled that gap out and he just kept it there, kept him at arm's length. I don't think Hamilton could have won that race. I don't think he could have done anything more than what he already did to win that race. He started too far back to win it. Bottas was just too good that day.
Yeah, I disagree. To be.
Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I can't remember now. Yeah, I think Hamilton this year. This is just an observation. I don't think he likes the 2-stop. I think if he can try for a 1-stop, he'll go for it. He's always been sort of reluctant to come in and try to extend that stint. I mean, he did it in Silverstone, and he was lucky with the virtual safety car. I think he trusts his team, but you do get a lot of radio traffic from Hamilton.
I think he's passionate. He was also nervous, particularly this one. You know, even though he's pretty much got the championship in his hand, he didn't until the race was done. So, I mean, me and Alex said it last time. You know, it's passion. It's not disrespect. It's passion. He's wanting to. He's like his 13th year in F1. You know, he's massively experienced. You know, if he thinks something's going wrong, he'll say his opinion, and then if it's the wrong thing, if his engineers disagree, they'll let him. That's a discussion. Okay? Because he's the guy in the car. He knows that car better than anybody else in the garage.
Yeah.
He's clearly still hungry, which is great to see at 13 years in F1 with six world championships. You know, he's almost half as many. Well, he's almost won a world championship for the 50% of the time he's been in the sport, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But he's still going for wins, even though he would have had it wrapped up just by finishing in 8th. But he was still prepared to go for that win and laid a bit, do a bit of risk, and he's gained a 2nd place out of a 5th place, which is incredible.
Brilliant, yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
I think it was his 150th podium.
Yeah, he's within 5 of Michael Schumacher on that one, I think, which is I personally believe he's going to overtake Schumacher, and he won't be the greatest of all time, but he's going to be up there.
Yeah.
He'll be the most successful of all time, I think.
I feel like it's a shame in a way that Mercedes have been so dominant for his championships, because nobody really has come to challenge him.
Yeah.
What he's done is incredible and everything. It's just you haven't had those challenges.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, I don't know who said it. It might have been you, Reese. You know, it's a hard thing being, you know, Hamilton's teammate. You know, top driver in a way won't want to be his team. He's only had Alonso. Well, he had Button as well, but Alonso was the man who's come closest to challenging him most regularly, and that was his first season. And Alonso won 2 championships before that, and they were even in points after 18 races or whatever. He's an incredible talent. I mean, we can lord over him all day. It's, you know, it's what he's done is unbelievable. I mean, and at the end of the day, he's 34 years old. He's still got a good 5 years in him if he wants to. He's already passed Schumacher's pole record. He could match his championship record next year. He could pass his win record next year. He's probably going to beat his podium record next year. You know, it's unbelievable. And remember after 2016 when Rosberg won the title and people were saying, "Oh, Hamilton's won 3 titles. He's matched Senna. He's not interested anymore. He only wanted 3 titles. He's got 6 now. 3 years later."
I don't understand a lot of the criticism as well with Hamilton, where I don't understand the idea that people, a lot of the F1 journalists, some of the old guard, I'll call it, you know, having a go at him for doing the athlete stuff, doing the music, doing the whole being a celebrity thing, you know, the fashion, you know, all of this, you know, going and riding bikes and doing all this other stuff, you know, and not dedicating his life to Formula One. The fact that he can go around and do this and get around the world all by himself, well, not by himself, but, you know, do all that sort of stuff and then turn up on a Thursday, jump in the car on a Friday and be challenging for wins in a way that not even Michael Schumacher, I don't think, could have done, is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and he works hard as well. At the end of the day, he does. Maybe not as hard as some drivers, but he definitely works hard. Let's not.
Well, he's so good, he doesn't have to, amazingly.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. I don't think he has to put all his 100%, 110% in, but he does enough, and it makes it look easy sometimes. Frankly, it's incredible. You know, remember in France when he was complaining, "Oh yeah, the tires have gone off, whatever." He was like, "Record."
Yeah.
Same lap. Unbelievable.
I think you need to savour it as well, because it's frustrating sometimes when he's winning every single race, and he's wrapping up these championships. But I do think the Formula One community will miss him when he does eventually retire, because he is a special talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we'll all back that. I mean, same with Schumacher as well. He had his haters when he was racing. Now we look at him like an absolute legend because he was. And same for Lewis Hamilton, same for Ayrton Senna, Juan Manuel Fangio, same for all the champions. They're all something special, they really are. Hamilton is definitely up there with the very, very best, I think. Really proved that in recent years. But yeah, I think we'll end the show on there. Lewis Hamilton claiming his 6th world title in Coda. Got 2 more races left for the rest of this season. We'll be back next week to preview the Brazilian Grand Prix. Lads, thank you for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're on Omni Studio, Pocket Casts. Hopefully from next week we should be able to stream on Twitch as well. So I'll be linking that obviously as well. And let us know if you have any suggestions. If you think my mustache is terrible, that's fine. Remember, it's for charity. You know, it's the handlebar mustache for Texas. It's appropriate, isn't it? But yes, so yeah, we'll be back next week. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure to keep it tuned to the F1 Chronicle, f1chronicle.com for all your F1 news, views and reviews. Yeah, see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.